Welcome everybody. Today workshop is called Trace It. It's about world performance optimizations. And basically today we're going to be learning about how to use building, tracing, and performance metrics tools to evaluate your world and measure the impact of assets so you can make changes to increase the stability and the frame rate. As you probably are aware, frame rate is very important to enhance the experience of visitors to your worlds. If players visit your world and the world is laggy or they crash very often, most likely they will not come back, and most likely they will say people, hey, don't go back there because you're gonna get dizzy or something. So it's always important beyond, making sure that your experience is fun and it has like a good game flow that is also optimized to minimize, the potential of, people dropping your experience. My name is Pigeon number 12. I've been a mentor for for over a year, for 3 years or so in Horizon Worlds, and I specialize in scripting and optimization. Today, content is going to be aligned with the scripting and art categories of the skills metrics alignment. And the reason why I chose those categories is because most of the time, the changes that you have to make in your world to, to comply with performance metrics are related to scripting and art. Most of the time art because that is easy to see. Like, for example, it's easy to detect what the problem is. But also when you dive into more advanced tools like Perfetto, you're gonna start seeing, some scripting optimizations opportunities as well. A little bit of housekeeping rules here. This session is being recorded. Please raise your hand if you have any questions. Mute yourself if you don't have any questions. Keep the conversation going. Make sure that you ask your questions at designated times. I like to be a little bit flexible on that regards. Like, by all means, if you have like a really, pressing question to ask during my presentation, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll do my best to, give you the chance to speak up. Also, be active in the chat. I do prefer voice questions just because, it allows me to keep the attention to what I'm presenting and everyone else. But by all means, drop your questions in the chat. Again, I'll do my best to go back and then read the chat to see if there's anything that I can address. I also make sure that to fill the feedback survey at the end of the presentation. I'm going to be sharing the link for that as well. And feel free to tag me either in the forums or Discord or whatever if you have any follow-up questions as well. Okay, so for today's presentation, we have a volunteer that she said that she would like to, present her world for the presentation today. Let me see, is she in the chat? Let me make sure.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Awesome. Thank you so much. So let me, do you want to like introduce yourself and the world that we're going to be reviewing today?
Sure. I am, well, my real name's Angela, but I'm Miss Angie D, and I have the Big Apple Bingo Times Square. And yeah, we play bingo from, well, right now we play bingo from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. Every day. And when we get full, we seem to start freezing. Some people start, getting booted from the world. Fortunately, most of them do come back because they're kind of used to it. But it would be great if it didn't happen, and I don't know enough to fix it.
Yeah, no, excellent, excellent. And again, for everybody, just get everybody on speed of what we're doing today. So basically, I just asked a question like literally like 30 minutes ago, asking if someone would like to volunteer the world for the presentation today. And she was, kind enough to volunteer her world. This is my first time that I'm looking at this experience. So we're going to be reviewing this world together to potentially find opportunities for improvement and potentially, increase the stability of the world. So yeah, normally when I like to, let's say, review a world, my first question for the creator is basically just get like a high level sense of what the workflow of the experience is. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna just play the world, and if you can guide me what the player journey is, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna press play here, and let me play the simulation, and I press play here. Okay, so I land on the subway, and then where do we go from here?
Yep, off the subway. Well, the train is kind of moving, or it's not really moving, but it looks like it's moving. But once that stops and you go through the door and then you turn to the right, you can actually walk through it anyway, though. You don't have to wait.
Okay.
You can turn to the right. Nope, the other way. And go up the steps.
This way?
Yep.
Okay.
And then walk across the street and go into the bingo building. You'll get to the lobby first, and then into the next room is the bingo hall.
Okay, I see.
Now, I used to have cars moving on the street and everything. I actually, because they started getting booted, you know, out of there when every time we get full, it seems like it was happening. So I thought that maybe that was the issue. So I took those out. You know, I started, I just didn't know I don't really know what's going on actually, because it seems like I brought the capacity down quite a bit and it's still happening, but it only happens when we get like full or just about full.
Yeah, no, that's a really great context. Okay, so I'm entering the area here. Here's where you have the doors, and you have the lobby here, the hours. I'm looking around basically to get like a sense of what we have in the world. I'm gonna basically describe high level what I'm observing. For example, something that I'm noticing here is that there is a high use of textures. That's my first observation here. I'm also noticing, let's say, in what places you're using text gizmos. Text gizmos is another silent performance killer, if you want to say. I'm noticing, if you want to describe it that way, is because even though text gizmo might look harmless, it actually, text gizmos, like the way how they work, they use a technology called Text Mesh Pro from Unity, and those text gizmos have like a texture associated with it and a transparency associated with it. So when we use a lot of text gizmos, the transparency is one of the performance, again, the performance killers, because when you have a transparency, basically the pictures that are behind the transparency are rendered in a, it's harder to render the pixels behind the transparency pretty much. So yeah, so I'm just looking around. I see that you don't have too many text gizmos, actually only a few, but you do have a lot of texture, very like high quality textures. So I'm going inside.
Have a quick question. You mentioned with the text gizmos having like the transparency is an issue. Will the CUI with transparency be better or the same?
Well, the thing about the CUIs is that they use a different, like, how to say, a different like layer of the game engine, right? For example, they use the React engine. So many of the calculations that happen there they do affect the player, but they're more optimized for the user. For this one, for example, for the text gizmos, for example, every time that you have to display a different text or something, you have to drop a new gizmo and all that is accompanied with the with the texture. But with custom UIs, you have the flexibility of like controlling that better, and also depending if you're running it locally or default, you can also control, for example, what player gets affected with that performance. The least impactful way of displaying text is actually through texture, by baking the text in the texture that you already have in the world. For example, let's say even like as simple as this. Let's say that, for example, this texture here is black, plain black, right? If you want to display a text, for example, you can just bake it in the texture, and then it'll be just rendered, with the texture itself, right? So it'll be like no additional cost there. But yeah, after you start mixing, let's say, custom UIs and text gizmos and all that, then you start like mixing more additional things that must be costly. Everything that we're going to be discussing today, by the way, is I always like to say, know the rule, right? But it's up to you if you want to apply it. And also, it also varies depending on the type of experiences that you have. For example, like a world with, let's say, 20 test gizmos where the entire world is just, let's say, like a grid, is fine, right? Because you don't have anything else consuming that capacity. But for example, let's say if you have a world with 20 test gizmos, but then you already are in, let's say, 200% simulation and animation, those 20 test gizmos are costly, right? Because that is adding into that bucket. So that's basically the goal of like learning performance tools and performance metrics, is that basically knowing the rule and then basically know what to change in order to transfer the cost of something from one bucket to the other. I know that was a really long question, the answer, but okay. So yeah, so you have the test gizmos here, and then I haven't seen too much animation yet. Are these transparencies? This glass here, or just a collider?
It's just the collider.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
actually, no, it's glass. It's glass. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I can see a little bit of like a blue color there, and then
there is definitely a lot of text in the world.
for the stations here.
Yeah,
this is text.
There's text everywhere.
So for example, each one of those cells, there is a text gizmo?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's see. So no, that's okay. That's over here. And then, for example, that board over there, each one of those numbers is a different text gizmo?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. And is this custom UI or a texture over there?
Oh, you mean the picture?
The one that says name that tune, the billboard.
That's texture. All of the pictures are all texture.
Okay, you don't have any custom UIs in here or anything?
No, I don't.
Okay, great. So is this the last room, or is there anything else?
You could also go to the rooftop.
This
There's
one?
more. No, that's the superpowers. Go into the lobby, back into the lobby. And then right there to the left of the front door is, you can go to the rooftop up there. There's just more textures up there, the pictures.
Okay.
I took all the other, I had furniture up there, but I took it all out because I thought that might have been the problem.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. All right, so let's dive into the performance review. So the first thing would be, and on this one I'm completely new because it was like released very recently, but I think that they added the ability of like looking at work capacity here. So if I click here, that's going to be my first observation. So work capacity again is by looking at the main menu here, and then we go into world capacity. So technically, in theory, we have the flexibility of, let's say, going beyond these limits. Like before, if you have been like in Horizon for a while, you probably remember that we used to have like a hard stop at 100%. However, we don't have that anymore. Horizon, what basically wants us to do is basically keep track of the FPS, first of all, and then depending on how the FPS behaves, the numbers that we have there, we're gonna, we have to manually go into one of these metrics and basically decide what to do. I'm just looking at these metrics just because I want to get, again, just to get a better sense of what's happening in the world. I'm noticing that you are great in objects, right? You're barely using like half of the work capacity for objects. World and simulation, there you go. You have the text here that is like 39%. All that goes into simulation animation. There is a perception that simulation animation is only a scripting, but as you can see here, for example, simulation animation involves text, involves triggers. You're doing great in triggers there, it's only 5%. VFX is only 6%. Player, 51%. That's basically increases if you increase the capacity level of the world. By default is 4. I think that when you leave at 4, players is 20%. But if you increase that value, then that number increases. What is the player capacity currently of the world?
I have it all the way up to 32.
Okay, wait, so this is actually not bad. I didn't realize that was only 51%. That's actually great. Apparently they did something there. But yeah, so players capacity is 51%. Dynamics is basically everything that is not static. I think that that's the best way of describing it, because it can be something that is grabbable without a script, or it can be something with a script that is not grabbable, that is just, in the world, but running a script. So that's something also to take in consideration. So yeah, from here out of the bat, my first recommendation would be to reduce the number of texts here to basically bring that number down. Again, even though we are not constrained to this number, there is a good indication if you are experiencing problems in your world, try to bring those numbers down to something that is more, closer to the 100% to see if you start experiencing improvements in the world. So my recommendation here would be decreasing the text value. Maybe you can, instead of, let's say, having different text in different places, maybe you can find opportunities of combining some of those into one. For example, for this one here, where is that? Let me go back to the lobby. If we go back to where is it? Oh, here. So for example, instead of having one test gizmo for each one of those numbers, what you could do is have, let's say, one test gizmo per row, and just use the spaces, right, to separate each one of those numbers, right? You can have, like, let's say, one test gizmo that displays the 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the way to the end. And you can, by all means, using scripting, I'm guessing that these numbers eventually change color, right? I'm guessing.
They do, yeah. Each number turns red.
Right. So using scripting, you can perfectly, specify what number in that test gizmo you want to modify. For example, you can store those numbers in an array, for example, in a list of numbers. And then whenever one of those numbers is called or selected, then you can change the color of that number and then render the test gizmo again. So that's one technique. So that will save you, for example, instead of having 75 test gizmos right there, you will have only 5. That's
Okay.
one example. And this is potentially something that you could do as well with this one. I believe, I don't remember, I think that the maximum number of characters per test gizmo is 1,000 or 2,000. I think it's 1,000. So yeah, definitely make use of those 1,000 characters and just use, line breaks and spaces whenever you need to parse the content of it. And then one more thing before I dive into more intermediate advanced tools, let me go back there. And we'll try, okay, so yeah, this is a number of, this talking about, I guess that this is the equivalent of geometric complexity, basically measuring the complexity of the meshes that you have in the world is a 175%. That's actually not terribly bad, but definitely I would recommend to maybe merge or decimate some of the meshes that you have in here.
I do have the cars spawning in. I think it's just the cars spawning.
So
in.
there are more things. Okay, yeah, it would be interesting. Like, for example, like if you do this exercise, like if you bring those cards into an empty world, right, and then you run this exercise, it would be interesting to see, if you evaluate what is the additional cost of those cards into the world.
Okay.
By all means. But yeah, this is not terribly bad. I have seen worlds that are like 200%, but again, looking at these metrics allows you basically to make decisions about where you can go to make your world better, right? It looks like the geometry, just looking at the geometry of the world, I don't see anything like overly complex. Everything seems like either, a square or rectangular shapes.
Yeah, I tried to keep that. I tried to pay really close attention to that.
Yeah. So one technique is that is often missed is that you can go around the world, right, and then identify those areas that the player would never have the opportunity to go to, and delete those areas. Like, for example, right now, like if I go back here, actually, let me switch to the other view, which is this one, the wireframe view, and then we can start seeing. Oh, there you go. Here you can see right directly from the desktop editor, you can switch the different modes in here. The one that I'm looking at right now is this one called wireframe, and allows you to see basically where those vertices are, where the triangles are. So you can see right here that if I go around like outside the playable area, you still have like faces and vertices that, from the look of it, they look pretty costly. Like, for example, this one right here, This one is right here all the way to the back. So if I switch back to shaded, yeah, this is definitely an area that the player will never get to see. However, if we switch to solid wireframe, you can see how many vertices you have here, right? So you can literally just go into your modeling software and delete all of that and basically re-import it without it. And that will help you decrease that complexity level.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Thanks. I didn't even think about that.
Yep, that's again, for example, that's one of those tips that you like. I myself, like, discovered after after many like try and error, like trying to find opportunities. The same applies for the inside of it, right? Like as I'm flying around the world, I'm noticing that inside the buildings there are some like areas or structures. I'm guessing that the players will never go inside these buildings, right?
No, they don't.
Right. So those are definitely opportunities, like the columns and stuff like that. The back of it, you can definitely remove them. And there is a technique that I think is, I will not go into that. I guess that maybe I can give feedback to the team on how to, present this information to the creators. But there is a technique that allows you to actually bake the perception of those geometry pieces into the texture. So that way, instead of using geometry, let's say to present the column to the players, you can just bake the shades, the shadows and everything into the texture. And that'll also save you some capacity there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that's beyond my, I mean, I can do it probably, but it's gonna take me like probably like 3 days, whereas a space cleaner probably can do it like in 15 minutes. So, all right. So that's what
me longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a learning process, and the more you do it, then the faster it gets, right?
Yeah.
So that's all the knowledge that we can, extract just by looking at the information that you get here directly from the desktop editor. Like as you can see, for example, you already have actionable items that you can take in and basically just start making changes to start, getting the most out of your world. So now I am going to transition to the headset. So that way I can dive into more specialized and tools. And one in particular that I really, really, really like, that when I saw it, it literally blew my mind, that I want to share with all of you. So let me just 1 second here. My headset is sleeping now. I have to wake it up. Okay, so I'm gonna joining headset to the world. And thank you again for volunteering for this. This is actually very beneficial. My original plan was to use some default assets, but there's nothing like real life examples for this type of demonstration. So I appreciate that.
Sure. Thank you. It's helpful for me. So yeah, now I appreciate it too.
Yeah. So let me just I'm switching into my headset right now. So just give me a second while I load here and I start streaming. All right. So in here, in headset, we have different tools to measure performance. So if we go back to, if you open your menu here, if you don't have this menu here called utilities, you can activate it by clicking your main menu here. And then you go to the settings, and then you go all the way to the end to utilities. And then you toggle on the option that says turn on utilities menu. And that'll activate that menu that I'm gonna be demonstrating next. Basically, you look at your risk here, and then you have different options. You have real-time metrics, you have tracing, avatars, that's there, but it actually doesn't work. And this is basically the VR version of what we saw in the desktop editor that allows you basically to change how you see the world, either collision only, or if you want to see, overdraw, for example, like this. But we're gonna be focusing mostly on these two. So let's look at the real-time metrics first. So if I click on that one, this panel is gonna show up. And basically, this is a live graph that allows us to see like the trend or the live metrics of the world, right? By default, we have FPS, memory, physics, and draw calls. And we can start seeing some potential issues here. So we have, for example, the memory right now is going over the recommended target, which is like 5 gigabytes. Right now is a little bit over. The FPS is doing good, is actually doing really well, but we'll talk about that in a second. Physics is doing decent, is still under the recommended levels, and draw calls is where I think that the majority of the problem is going to be, which is basically going over the target of 125 draw calls per frame. So let's see what's happening here. So I often see, or I've often hear creators saying, "Oh, my world, for example, like is going over, over the target of the 70 frames per second in my world. Why is my world crashing, right?" So the one thing to take in consideration here is that there are many things that affect this number. The device that you're using to capture the performance, the number of players that are in the world, and the current state of the world. Basically, if the world is currently playing or not simulation. Currently, I am the only player in the world, but I bet you that if we had, let's say, all 32 players in the world, this number would drop significantly. My recommendation whenever you are measuring performance is that you go in the world with the maximum capacity possible, so you can get a true measure of what the problematics area of the world are. So that's the thing about it. The other thing about to take consideration about FPS is there is a mistake to measure frames per second if you are extending static in a world. The true way of measuring this is doing what I'm going to be doing now, which is basically holding or moving this on the side here, and then I'm going to start like walking around and see, let's say, if that number, let's say, drops anyway. For example, right there, just like coming from here, from the entrance, is 74. And then as I go around it, I enter this area here, it drops to 60. And now if I continue going this way, went back to 73. So there is something here, definitely something around this area that is making this drop significantly, right? So this is one of those things that you can do to start identifying, like where you want to go back to basically dive into the problematic area of the world. So right there, this entrance, we can go back to this later. So we know that entrance over there. And also when I look in this direction, it drops a little bit. So, but let's continue real quick. Oh, I already got the notification there that the memory now is it went all the way up to 6 gigabytes. So let's continue this way. We can see the number dropping to 55, 51 now, 49, 42, 38. So there you go. So and remember, we saw that 73, right? If we were to just account for that number over there, 74, the world is great. But as I walk around and I start exploring the world, I start noticing those drops, right? Those significant drops. And this serves you as the first layer to dive into more in detailed, information later on. We can see now the draw calls now went all the way up to 800. So it's telling me, hey, every time that the player passes through this area, they have to download, 800, more than 800, additional draw calls. And remember that this, how world works basically, is kind of like a live, like a downloading a game live, right? So the more the player explore the world, they're going to start downloading more information into their headset. And sometimes downloading that much information at once is going to make, cause those crashes and situations that we often experience. I can't tell you how many times I've created experiences where everything looks fine, everything looks beautiful, but then when I start bringing play testers into my world, they start crashing, and then I have to go back and look at my metrics and see and make the difficult decision, because it's a difficult decision sometimes, to decide what areas should be streamed down, right, or simplified without sacrificing the look and feel of the world, right? So, for example, this is what we're observing here. The draw calls are going up. We saw that we went all the way to 48, I think it was. I'm going to continue just working around. This one, let's see. Oh, the world is probably not playing. 1 second. Let me just play the world. Okay. Let me rack real quick. Okay, there we go, all the way to 73 again. Everything is fine, but then I dropped to 46. There's something happened there. And then continue this way. Let me see if I can decrease the world volume real quick. So I can. Okay, so go ahead and start yelling. Okay, so yeah, we see 36, 31 there, but you get the idea. So these are the main buckets here: FPS, memory, physics, raw calls, all that always to take a look at to identify those areas where you probably have to make adjustments. I look around, then if I go inside as well, we also, this is where the majority of the players are gonna be. Also, whenever like measuring these metrics, make sure that you behave the same way that your potential visitors are going to be, exploring the world. Because if we just start, stay static like this, everything most likely is going to look perfect or close to perfect, right? But also make sure that you jump around, look around, right? You know how many people like to do that. I myself like to do that a lot in worlds, and start basically identifying where those numbers start looking, off of what they should be. Okay.
Yeah, they jump around and fly around and everything in there. So
yeah, exactly. That's precisely what you need to do. Something else to know here is that these are, I think, the default ones, but by all means, there are more metrics that are important to look whenever you are using this tool. So I think that you can only display 4 at a time here, but you can untoggle the ones that you have already evaluated and then bring on other ones. For example, like in this case, I know that raw calls is an issue, so I know that that's something that I have to work on. Memory is affected by draw calls. That's another thing, another important thing to notice. As I mentioned, everything, the only metrics that I really recommend everyone to check in the world is the FPS, right? Regardless of what you have in the world, if you notice consistent, FPS beyond, 65, 70 FPS, that's great. You can look at the rest if you want to go above and beyond, but if you have great FPS, that's perfect. But the moment you start looking at this number going, going down like this, that's when you start looking at these other metrics, right? FPS is basically the sum of the behavior or metrics of all the other buckets. And memory is for sure one of the ones that affects FPS a lot. Another one that affects FPS a lot is CPU. CPU, I remember reading somewhere in the documentation that Horizon is CPU based because everything, including draw calls, are processed through the CPU. So that's another bucket to keep in mind in line on. CPU, again, is affected by many things. So when you see this number going above the recommended levels, let me close this one here. I'm just gonna, again, just jump around. See how it goes to 16 sometimes, 12 is fine. I think I saw 16 at some point. That's where you want to still, keep looking. There you go, 15 there. You want to start looking at the other buckets here. We have identified already the draw calls. We saw text gizmos earlier, and it looks like you do have some issues as well with physics. Another recommendation with physics that I always sometimes see overlooked in many worlds is that the same way how I recommended earlier that you can delete those faces that the player will never get to see, the same thing applies with physics. If I go ahead and change my shader to collision, then I start noticing that everything in this world is collidable, right? So if I go outside, see the ceiling, everything, the walls and everything, all of that affects physics, right? So if I go outside, everything in the world is currently collidable. So those are probably collidable. It's just that, when I get closer, they start rendering orange. So the recommendation there would be just make the entire building non-collidable and instead use one of the default collider gizmos that we have, or just import a cube or something like that that you can then, place on top of it. So just as a reminder, we do have the collider gizmos that are in here under the build menu, colliders, and then you can just bring one of these cubes and basically just use it, to cover the areas that the player should not go into. Everything that, the ceiling and everything can be non-collidable, and then you can have a collider that just covers the walkable area of the world, right? Something around this height, maybe, something like that. And then everything else can stay uncollidable.
I did not know what those were.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, that's right there. That's what it is. So basically we have 3 collider shapes. just to address the most common, shapes that we have in worlds. You have the cube, you have the sphere, and you have the capsule. Fun fact, the player collider is a capsule. But the cubes, and by all means, you can create your own colliders. But if you don't want to overcomplicate things, you can by all means just use the box collider and the sphere collider instead. But yeah, that's one thing that is for sure is going to save you a lot of FPS, making everything that is not reachable uncollidable, and just put a collider, on the street or around the building, so players cannot go outside those areas.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, by all means. Okay, so let me just teleport there real quickly, because I think that's where the majority of the players are going to be. Okay, so yeah, that's another thing. Let me see if we're doing on time. Okay, so I think that's a lot to talk about it. If you look at in the documentation, you're gonna see the description of what each one of those mean, but those are the most important ones. The one that I do tend to look, and this mostly for the other creators, since you don't have custom UIs in here, is this one about bindings. Since custom UIs is a very popular tool at the moment, make sure that you take a look at this, the bindings, and also the binding counts. A little known, let's see, which one is it? This one here. A fact that is not very well known by creators is that bindings increase over time. There is currently a problem with that if you have a custom UI that is local, if you switch constantly between, let's say, server side and a player, right, because it's a local script, the number of bindings are going to increase over time. So that's something to keep an eye on. If you are using a lot of custom UIs, Horizon is aware of that issue, but that's definitely something that causes a lot of crashes in worlds. Because yeah, I myself use a lot of local local custom UIs, and that's one of the current problematic areas. But yeah, I highly encourage everybody. You can see how much information we have already extracted just by looking at this this tool here. So that's something that for sure I recommend everybody to look at. There you go. We're already in 38. We started with 74, I think, at the entrance. We're already 38. So that's something that you can keep an eye on. The one thing that I want to say, if you want to take something out of this presentation, it would be this one as well. There is kind of like a hidden trace here that I haven't seen Horizon promoting too much, but it's super extremely cool, and it's called world content. Let me change the view here to be shaded back again. And what this world content trace does is that it allows you to scan the entire world and then import that information into the desktop editor and identify exactly what meshes or what textures are the most costly in the world. So let's see how that works. So I'm gonna just put myself in a position where I can capture the most. So I'm gonna maybe start from the exit here. And then, okay, there you go. I guess, yeah, I think this is a good place. So from here, I'm gonna start the trace. So this one right here, world content, I'm gonna start the trace right now. As you can see here, there is something that is filling up. That time, that percentage is gonna increase the more complexity you have in the world. So right now I'm just looking around, making sure that I look around. Basically, all the areas that I want to evaluate is already at 20%. So I want to be careful there. Oh, you have like a trigger there that pushes me out, I think. Oh no, there you go.
No,
Okay, so I'm trying to, okay. I think that I have enough information anyways, but yeah, you can see the percentage here that is increasing. And I'm gonna stop right there because I think I have a lot of data. So that captures a lot of data. So the more complex the world is, you might start feeling like, some lag or some like the world is gonna start feeling a little bit slow. It's because it's capturing a file with a lot of data right now. And now I'm gonna show you how to see this information. So I'm gonna transfer now to the desktop editor so we can see more data around it. So give me 1 second here while I go back. All right, so you saw me capturing the trace and headset. So now let me show you how to find that information and download it and use it. So the place where you can find that information is right here in the creator portal. There is a bucket for performance, and then there is a section here for traces. So if I refresh this, now I can see the trace that I just captured. This one was captured at 2:44 p.m. Eastern, and then I can go here and download it. After I do that, a JSON file is going to be downloaded, and now I can go back to the desktop editor, which is this one here, and then navigate back to the world right here. And let's see how, again, when I saw this, it was kind of like mind-blowing for me. So I was like, yes, we need this. Okay, so now that we are in the world, we can now import that file into the performance tab here. So if I click on the performance tab, I can click on open trace, and then I can select the files that are downloaded. It was this one here, double click, and it'll load all that information in here. So let's talk about what we have here. So in here, we have kind of like a timeline trace. These are the frame IDs, and you can scrub this timeline to basically focus on different areas and basically focus the pin to where you see those spikes in GPU, for example. And wherever that pin is, you're going to get a detailed list here of all the assets, meshes, and textures that are affecting the draw calls at that time. For example, right now, this pin is positioned here. That was kind of the default position. And I can sort this by the cost in terms of memory. Vert counts if I want to. For example, I can put the vert counts on the top and also the number of triangles. I can also switch to textures, and I can then sort by memory. So it looks like what you currently have in this view, you have you don't have that many expensive textures, at least in this frame, but we'll scrub a little bit to see if we find something else. But you can see how this information can be super useful. I have seen worlds where the creator didn't know that they had, let's say, like 24K textures in the world, and this is how we were able to find it. So in this view, you get the name of the texture, you get the memory, as I mentioned, the dimension of it, and also the formats and how many objects are using those textures. So let's say if I scrub through this, I can see, let's say, kind of like a spike over here. So I'm gonna move the pin over there, and maybe I can narrow this down a little bit so I can zoom into this area. And then I can, scroll here, and then I can move my the pin to areas where I see like high levels. So this one, the GPU, maybe like if I position the pin over here, as I move this around, if there is something new that is being rendered in that position, then I'm gonna see the detailed information here as well. Again, depending on the amount of data that is being captured at that time, you might see that this might be a little bit slow, but yeah, this is actually super useful. So for example, in this case for meshes, I can see that you have, let's say, some objects with 14,000 triangles, vertices, sorry, and the cost on this one is only 1 megabyte. That's actually not bad. So let's see. Yeah, it's basically where the scavenger hunt process come into play, is that you have to basically just go and then select those areas where you see like not so ideal behaviors or performance, and basically start to find those things. So yeah, for example, we have this one here. Okay, so one thing though about this is that the way how the objects are referenced is by entity ID, not necessarily by name. So it might be difficult to find it just by this, but I have a script that I can share with you that allows you to basically find those things really quickly. I call it like Entity Finder, which is this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to use it. So let me just create a new script here. I'm going to call it the same way. This one is called Entity Finder. I'm going to call it the same way here. Entity Finder. And then I'm going to open it. I want to make sure that I go through the chat as well and answer some questions. So let me just copy paste this. Copy this, paste it here. All right. And then if I go outside here, the way how it works is that I can just bring a cube. I can just bring cubes. A cube. Okay, it's close enough. And then I can just so basically what I'm created here with this script is something that is gonna allow me to basically to trace a line from where I am to where the object that I want to find is. So right now, this is where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna duplicate this cube and this is gonna be the line. And then I am going to duplicate that cube and this is gonna be the pointer. So in this one here, the start, I'm gonna select the script and there's gonna be finder. Entity Finder here. And then this is going to be the pointer. So if I go here, attach a script, Finder, and there's going to be Pathfinder. Okay. And then I have to specify what is going to be the line. So I'm going to rename this one real quick. I'm going to call this one line. This one I'm going to call it pointer. And this one is going to be origin. I'm going to share this script with you all, by the way. So in here, I'm just going to drag and drop the line. And then if I go back to the origin here, and then I say, hey, let me see, I want to find the entity 1040. So let's see if I do 1040. There might be a chance, you mentioned that you are spawning some stuff here into the world, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this world is these entities actually being spawned in. I guess we'll figure it out, but we'll see. So now if I play the world, stop, and play the simulation. Oh, that might be it. Let's see, undefine, auto spent. Oh, you have, it is a leaderboard? Let's see.
Now the leaderboards, there are leaderboards right over the bingo hall on the second level there.
Okay, because there are some errors that do tend to break a script, so I wonder if this is the case on that one. But
Okay.
let's see if I play the simulation. Oh, this one is because I have to tag the object. So 1 second. So this one, the tag that I need for this one is entity pathfinder pointer. So I have to go back here and then assign that tag to it. Okay. So let's see if I stop the simulation, play the simulation. There you go. So now what I'm trying to do right now is that I'm trying to find that top asset right now that is telling me that is the one that has the most costly one in that frame. So if I follow this line now, I can just go there and see exactly what that is. So in this case, it looks like it might be the building. Let's see. Yeah, it might be this wall right here. Something that I can add to the script is basically to print the name of it. So if I go back to TypeScript,
That looks like the world reset button. No?
No, this one basically is the indicator that is basically is pointing to where that costly asset is. So in here, I'm just gonna console log the name of it. So console log entity finder, and then, yep, I think that's fine. And then save that. Let's see what that is. So if I stop the world, go back to the console, I'm going to print it as a warning, so it's easier for me to see it. So warning. And then let's wait until it compiles. And play it. All right. So if this one is called the black subway. That's the name of the object that is expensive. Black subway. So it looks like you have 3 of those in here. So F.
Subway?
Yeah, so it looks like that is a wall.
Yep.
Wait.
That's the wall. That's it.
Yeah, there you go. So see, that's the type of things that you might be surprised when you look at this type of things. So right now, if I look at the performance, that object right there is the most expensive asset that you currently have in that frame. Shows that wall, when that could potentially be just a cube, with a texture on it. Currently, that has 34,000 vertices for some reason. So let's see, you have I see. You see how it has like that shape?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So if I switch to wireframe, there you go.
Oh,
that
wow.
actually matches. So that's the type of things that you can actually discover with the type of performance, right? That is something that precisely that reaction I always find when using this tool, is because it can sort everything, and then you start like going through this list and start like finding, okay, so let me see what's the most costly thing in my world. Right here, if you go ahead and remove those 3 things, those 3 walls, and replace it with 3 cubes, you're gonna save right there, that times 3, basically.
Go ahead, remove it. Let me see.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go back and basically trace again. Remember that this is just like a photograph,
okay.
right? So, but definitely this is something that you can literally just see right now. Like I'm just looking at this, and
that's a lot of verse.
there you go.
Yes.
Let's see really quickly the second one. Let's see. I thought that was the entire building, but it's actually just that wall. So so let's look at the other one real quick. So again, if I go just stop the world and then go back to where I have that cube, I'm gonna change this back to shaded and then go back outside. That's where I dropped it.
That was actually a pre-made that I got from somewhere. I just threw it up there because I really didn't think that it was expensive at all.
Yeah, that's one of the danger. The plus. The plus and the negative of using assets, right? The plus is because it allows you to build a world really quickly. The negative is that sometimes it does require a little bit of time to actually optimize it to make sure that it doesn't actually affect your world too much. So I'm just curious about this last one, and then I'm gonna switch to questions. This one is gonna be 10, 10, 59. Actually, I think I moved it a little bit. That's not it. Let me sort it by counts. Okay. Oh yeah, I guess that's it. 14,000 vertices. Okay, so if I press enter here and then I play the simulation. Oh, that's probably, I wonder if that one is being exponent. Let's see, stop, play. Let me see what the console says. Yeah, that probably was something that you were spawning in, because currently it's not in the world. So that's probably one of the assets that you're spawning in that was causing that problem at that time. But
So
I hope, hopefully, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Even if the cars, I know the cars are like, I think like 2%. Would that doesn't matter that they're low capacity?
Well, remember what we talk about percentage and cost, right? Like one thing is like always whenever evaluating the cost of an asset, make sure that you use all the different tools that we have. Like 2% might be one bucket of the category of performance and cost, but vert counts, for example, could be another one, the cost of the texture and all that. I'm not quite sure what that object is. I guess, if we were, let's say, to to try to spawn that up. Well, no, if you spawn that object, that ID might be different. But yeah, what I would recommend you to do there is just bring all the assets that you're currently spawning into the world into an empty world and just run this trace and see if you can find these elements there.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna switch to questions here real quickly. I know that I covered a lot. Let's see what we have. I didn't cover Perfetto, but I know Perfetto is a topic we can cover to that if you want to cover it as well. It's kind of like in the advanced level, but I think it's important things. These are the ones that you can, without having any technical knowledge or whatsoever, you can see how much information we already gather for optimization purposes, right? So you already have a bunch of action items that you can, go ahead and implement those things and start taking actions to it. So let's see what we have. Thank you for the patient compliment there. Everything that Chart said, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Everything that he said is completely right. So, so just for the sake of time, Charts always have like really good comments about optimizations and best practices. So by all means, those are really, really on point. Is there a way to know if you are using too many texture or at some texture limits? Yep, that's basically what the traces do. They capture that information. Wish someone would. I love to understand them from someone with experience. I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, Stephen, but feel free to dive into that. Looking at my heaviest world, yeah, I hope you find a lot of things there, Natasha. I can't see the image right now. Oh yeah, that one is, yeah, we'll try count 232. That's a lot, definitely a lot of potential for optimization there. Okay, so we can actually go over the 100. Yep, you can definitely go over the 100. Always keep an eye on FPS to make sure that you are ideally over 70. I think that that's what Meta wants you to do. Something to keep an eye though is that on mobile, the maximum FPS that you're gonna get is 60, regardless if you're running the something locally on default. 60 frames per second is the maximum capacity, the maximum FPS that you're gonna get on mobile and the reason for that is because the experience is just streamed into your phone, and that's the cap basically. But for headset, the maximum, I think I've seen it like all the way to 74, 76, depending on what headset you're using. Yep, the overdraw, yep, can be helpful for that. Yeah, so try count, if meshes has a smooth normals and has hard edges, does that affect the try count? Yes. Let's see what Ashley is saying here. I think that when we did some tests a while back, sharp edges count as 3 more vertices. Not sure if this has changed. Yeah. So what happens there is actually, if you go into the modeling system, right, you're gonna see that the number of vertices doesn't change when you do something, when you change something from hard to smooth, right? But what happens here in the most game engines is that when you use a smooth shading, what happens is that instead of like counting those vertices, the vertices are important for lighting purposes. And when you use a smooth shading, those vertices are like calculated as an average. So instead of calculating each vertex individually, they're calculated as an average, and that way that decreases the cost of that shader in the world. So by all means, if you use a smooth shading, it's more performance than if you use just flat shading. Maybe there could be a super optimized world you could show, and yeah, I wish I had more time, but yeah, definitely with performance, we can talk for ages, basically. I'm gonna see if we can schedule like a second part of this so we can actually go over a good example of an optimized world. Good call there. Could be there a big text gizmo there. I guess that you were commenting something about what I was showing at the moment. Let's see, can we use that many NPCs during build to test performance? That's actually great. Yeah, that's a really great call out. Definitely, that's actually what the avatar feature is supposed to do in the utilities menu. For some reason, doesn't work, but great call out there. You can definitely bring NPCs into the world, and they will have the same cost as a real player. Yeah, there you go. Charles already answered that part. In June, thank you, Erin, there for the reminder that in June, we're going to be talking a lot about optimization. So keep an eye on the program and what's coming. There's going to be a lot of great content there. Thank you for everybody that answered that question. Oh, by the way, as I'm, before I forget, as I'm answering these questions, let me share the link for the survey. So that way this exchange services here. I'm sharing the link of the survey with you, and then I'm going to continue answering questions here. Okay, so I'm going back up. We have on the test gizmo, there could be button convert to texture with settings for resolution. That's actually a good feature. I'm not sure how far we are from that, but yeah, that would be something good to do. Could you explain what draw calls are and how to optimize our world to bring that number down? Charles already answered to that. Draw calls are instructions sent to the render engine each frame to draw the scene. Yeah, that's precisely right. As I mentioned, everything that Charles says 100% right, without a doubt. Combining meshes, yeah, removing back faces, atlasing textures, all of that to reduce the cost of everything. Natasha, will turning on and off visibility of an object will help with performance? Absolutely. That's actually one of the recommendations. I guess that for the second part of things, we can actually dive into a specific recommendation techniques. In some worlds, without mentioning any specific, I think I have working 4 of them that use that technique where the player only, basically everything is invisible, but then the player only see things that are around them, and then you can use the per player visibility API there to make sure that they are only allowed to render the meshes and texture that they have in front of them. Can we record the result of this screen? I'm guessing that you were talking about the live metrics. Yeah, you can, I guess that you can record a video. Also, something that I didn't demonstrate there is that in that same screen, there is a record button that you can press and also capture a trace. That generally translates into a Perfetto trace that you can then download and then explore, even deeper. Again, as I mentioned, with performance, there is a bunch of features that we currently have that we can explore. An hour is probably not enough to cover all of them. But yeah, you can either record the screen, to take notes. Fun fact, something that I like to do in my projects is that I like to keep kind of like a spreadsheet of where I am and then how those metrics progress as I start implementing performance changes. So that is something that allows you basically to evaluate how those techniques allow you to optimize the world. How much colliders can we use? Again, that always depends on what else you have in the world. If you see that the physics value is increasing like over the recommended limits, you have it there in the trace, then you have to, you know that you have to start decreasing those colliders down. Colliders affect physics in the traces. Where can we find the recording of these videos? They're going to be available on the creator forum. Yeah, we're going to be sharing that. Oh yeah, the script. Before I forget, let me share the script here. I'm going to create a quick Google Drive, as I always do. So let me go to the Drive here and create a new folder. Performance, and drop the link there. So let me open the script and Entity Finder, revealing File Explorer, and drop it in the, it's only one script and it has everything in there. And let me share the link and share, and with everybody. Okay, copy link, and this is the link for the script. And let's see what else we have. Glad to hear that it was helpful, Mike. It's great. I don't know if the object was from Meshi. Are AI gen meshes set to be optimized? They're actually really good. I have seen some of the, you know, traces or scans from the AI meshes, and they're actually really good. But by all means, you can always download those meshes and then optimize them even further if you want to. Yeah, Matthias, I should share the link of the script. Let's see. Does this tool allow you to see a list of all the textures in the world, regardless of frame or where you are looking? It's per frame. I don't know if you noticed when I was recording or capturing the meshes and textures in the world, it was starting to lag a little bit. It's because it's literally downloading the information of everything. So it doesn't create, let's say, like a curated list of everything at once. You have to literally scrub through the trace to find the places where those meshes or textures are. So it takes a little bit of time, you know, just to click in those frames and basically find spikes, and basically from there you can then determine how to optimize those objects or textures. Okay, so asking here for Perfetto. Awesome. Okay, so I think we covered all the questions there. Let's see how, I haven't checked how many people do we have still. Are we all here? Oh, great, we have 28. So we can cover Perfetto real quickly. So let me see if I don't have a Perfetto trace here, but I can capture one real quick. So let me switch back to my headset and we can do that last. Let me see. Okay, let me go to Oculus casting again. And okay, starting my headset real quick. Give me 1 second. So the process of capturing a Perfetto trace is very similar in that it's the same menu, and the option is just right above the one that we used. It's called deep traces. So I'm just switching there to start the streaming. Okay, it's loading still. By the way, that's not another thing to take into consideration. If you notice that when you travel to the world, it takes quite some time, that's another indication, right, that there are potentially some performance improvements there. So let me start streaming here real quick. I'm in the world now. I'm gonna start casting. Web. Next. Okay, it's loading. Give me 1 second. All right, looks like it's loaded. I just have to disable the pass-through here. Sorry, this step normally takes always a little bit of time. Basically starting the casting. Oh, there you go. I actually just crashed from the world. So, but that's a good thing because that way I can start the trace, you know, from zero with the most. All right, I think I'm loading now into a world. Okay, so this is it. All right. Okay, so we're in the world. So let's see how the trace works. So again, just looking at your risk here, your utilities menu is basically clicking on tracing. And then instead of using world content, you're gonna use deep. Overview is basically the same. Well, it's kind of like a high level overview as the name implies of the deep trace. So I'm just gonna jump directly to the deep trace because the deep trace already contains what the overviews is gonna show us. Yeah, the overview is recommended if you want to get kind of like a initial assessment of the places that you want to review, but I'm just gonna jump directly to the deep traces. So, okay, so now that I select deep there, I can just click on start tracing. Again, you're gonna see that number increasing over time. that number actually goes faster than the one that we saw earlier. But I'm just gonna start walking around and just looking around again, just following the player journey. I'm gonna try to go fast so we can get as much information as possible. It's already at 20 something. Look around, like being super extreme, like absorbing everything in the world. And we're 30 something. And yeah, I think that's good enough. And you're gonna see why I say that that's good enough, because that's gonna be already a lot of information. So after capturing the trace, now we can switch back to the creator portal. So let me a second here. So the place where you can find the Perfetto traces is in the same place here on the performance. So if I refresh the page, you're gonna see what now you can see now what I said. Oh, that's enough. That's a lot of information. So Perfetto traces download literally like all the APIs and all the things are you using frame by frame, and it gives you like a detailed information on what's happening in the world. And that's the reason why you see this breaking down in so many files. You get the client side of things and you get the server side of things. And let's take a look at one of those to see how it looks. So I'm gonna look at this one, the server side. I'm gonna click on Open Trace and then click on Perfetto. It's gonna open a new website, and then you're gonna see a view like this. It's gonna look like empty, but in reality, what's happening is that everything is kind of like summarized here. And when I click on this arrow, we're gonna start seeing some data. This is most of the time overwhelming to look at. So this is why, I think we're gonna have, Erin mentioned that we're gonna have performance workshops next month in June, and Perfetto is gonna be one of those. But basically, I'm gonna be using my keyboard to navigate through this. So right now I'm pressing W to zoom in. If I press S, I'm zoom out. If I press A, I go to the left, and if I press D, I go to the right. So that's what I'm gonna be doing here, so we can see what's happening. So what do we have here? So literally every frame here is telling me what are the different APIs that are being called and in what order. In here, once you start diving into this data, you're gonna see, for example, like when the player is being rendered, when the player grabs something, you're gonna see APIs for grabbing something. When the player interacts with the custom UI, you're gonna see exactly where that being being used. Let's see. I think that in the community manual that we covered, that we have available in the learned portal, we cover some of these, but not in too much detail. But you can see here, for example, like when the scripting API starts or when the scripting API updates. But if you want to just get like general idea of what's happening here, normally what I do is that I click on the high level of the data here. The way how it works is that the one on the top is the parent, and then underneath it, you have all the children that are inside of the parents. So the high level one is the frame. So normally what I do is that I click on the parent, which is the frame. And then over here, if you click on the name of that API, which is what I'm doing right now, allows me to get the slices with all the slices that have the same name. When I click on that, I get this list. And from here, what I do is that I sort it by duration. So right now, if I sort this from highest to lowest, I can see that my highest frame for this capture is 60 milliseconds. For your world to be optimized, I think that the average should be like 13 milliseconds. So I can see right here that these frames are actually rendering like a lot of data. So from here, normally what I do is I just go around and then basically I notice, oh, this is something that is actually happening constantly in the world. So there's something going on here. I go to the top one here, and then clicking in the ID here is gonna take you directly to that frame that has that duration. So again, I sorted by duration, then clicking on the ID number is gonna take me to the frame that has that cost, right? Now from here, I can again press W to zoom in. I can minimize this for now, and then I can start looking at things basically to understand what's going on. Something that I can observe here, and this is something that you're gonna start learning as you work with this tool. Is this is normally unusual, like this is not normal. Basically what this is saying is that every frame is actually allocating time to finish rendering the prior frame. This is not normal. So this normally that is an indication that every frame is basically being used at its limit. The time that is allocated for the frame is not enough. So now this frame is trying to finish the rendering of the prior frame. This is not normal. And the way how you start looking at these things is by capture a baseline, let's say of an empty world, for example, and compare those traces with the world that you are analyzing. And then when you start seeing those outliers, let's say with those APIs that take longer than normal, those are the things that you have to address. Like, for example, again, this one that is normally not normal. Normally you want to see these like being just like maybe like 40% or like, I don't know, maybe like 10% of what the frame is. As I zoom in into the frame here, we can start seeing more stuff like, yeah, all of this is giving me like everything that you see about like new verts. That's basically things that require, let's say, getting or setting the position of something. So I'm guessing that something in the world is currently like getting or setting something on an update. That's something that you can capture here as well. And again, we can dive into more detail. I know that we are like already 20 minutes past the hour, but you can go as far as using TypeScript to annotate some of these Perfetto traces. So that way, for example, if you want to measure specifically where in the world those, let's say, scripting-wise, performance problems are, you can annotate them in the Perfetto trace, and then you can get that information in here. Again, in June, we're going to be diving more in detail into more advanced techniques about this. If you would really want to like start exploring about this, there are 2 resources where you can find information about these APIs. One, I know that this is kind of like cliche, is Google. Horizon is based on Unity, so you're going to find that many of these APIs are actually based on Unity. So some of these APIs are already documented out there, and then you're going to be able to find more information about what they mean. And the other place to find information about these APIs are in the Learn portal. So if you go to the Learn portal, let's see, I normally go there by searching NPCs because that's the one that I use the most. But if I search here, let's say Perfetto, maybe Perfetto. There you go. You're gonna find data, an example of some of the common APIs. For example, here's gonna tell you like what APIs to look for if you're analyzing physics, what APIs to look for if you're analyzing rendering, GPU, particle effects, animation, scripting, and all of that. But yeah, this again, we could literally spend like 4 or 6 hours just talking about Perfetto. But I just wanted to basically show you an overview that tool is available there, and there is a lot that you can, extract out of it. That was a lot of information. Hopefully it was useful. And see what we have here in the questions. Yeah, you're welcome. Great content, thank you. Yeah, exactly as Shart mentioned, there is limited memory of the information that you can capture, so that's why the traces are limited to a percentage. Yep, exactly. Verts are reference to network stuff, like getting settings, like all of that. This was great. Awesome. All right. So I think that concludes the workshop today. I know that we went over the allocated time for this, but hopefully this information was useful. And yeah, keep an eye on those announcements for June, because we're going to be covering a lot about performance next month. So yeah, thank you for attending this workshop today, and talk to you in the next one.